Can the world's deserts be transformed into green areas? These are the many projects that are being undertaken around the world to stop the growth of desert areas and transform them into green spaces. Welcome to EcoNews. What could happen to the Earth if all deserts were turned into fertile land? United Nations reports reveal that the Earth's dry spaces, including desert areas, cover more than 41% of the planet's surface. The planet is in the midst of two wars. In one, the land dies through desertification, and in the other it revives through afforestation and the establishment of green walls. Deserts have a natural tendency to enlarge, and without the hand of man it is difficult for a natural forest to develop. Most likely, desertification will continue to grow. This has been the case for centuries, until deserts and arid regions became more than 40% of the Earth's surface. To this natural trend, man is opposing the afforestation of deserts to convert dry lands into woodlands and cultivable spaces. What do you think would happen if all deserts were afforested? One of the most interesting and colossal projects is the Great Green Wall of China, in the Gobi Desert, underway since the years 1970, which is intended to be completed in the year 2050. There are several green projects in North Africa, India, the Arabian Peninsula and other dry places on Earth to wrest territory from the desert. In China, in 2016, specialists from the University of Chongqing announced that they had developed a novel technology to turn the desert into fertile land. This seems a brilliant idea that favors the environment, natural resource management, and agriculture by providing food to a planet that has not yet solved the problem of hunger, especially in poor countries in Africa and Asia. However, the conversion of the world's deserts and grasslands into arable land could have far-reaching consequences on climate, environmental balance on land and biodiversity. The technology developed by the Chinese scientists is based on a plant cellulose paste that allows the desert sands to retain the water and nutrients essential for crops to thrive. This substrate was applied to a sandy expanse of desert in Mongolia. And over time the plot began to produce rice, tomatoes, corn, watermelons and sunflowers. The costs of the artificial materials and the machines to transform sand into soil are lower compared to agriculture and environmental reclamation. Species planted in the Mongolian sandy plot generated higher yields, using the same amount of water needed in ordinary cultivated soils. Fertilizer requirements were lower than those usually used in other soils. This initiative, started in 1994, seeks to halt the advance of desertification on the planet, achieving a substantial change in 2030 through long-term strategies. Remember to subscribe to the channel, leave us your like and don't forget to tell us your opinion on the subject when the video ends, below in the comments. The other Great Wall of China. In 1978, a more ambitious initiative, known as the Great Green Wall, was launched. Its aim is to halt and reverse the desertification of the vast Gobi Desert through reforestation programs in the north, northeast and northwest. The Gobi Desert, which covers an area of 3 million square kilometers, is known for having been the origin of the Mongol Empire. It has been experiencing an expansive tendency due to the increase of the population, the intensification of grazing, and the prolonged droughts that increase the desert surface. So far, the Great Green Wall has managed to mitigate the increase in desertification, thus helping to conserve water and soil, and to prevent sandstorms, which has favored agriculture. The Three Northern Shelter Belt is the largest reforestation program in the world. In 2050, a quarter of the current area of the Gobi Desert will have been planted. In the last 40 years, 79,000 square kilometers of windbreak trees have been planted. And 100,000 square kilometers of grasslands have been restored. However, controversies have arisen during the implementation of the Great Green Wall project. During its first phase, the monoculture strategy was adopted. This favored the planted extension, but affected biodiversity and led to high losses of plants due to diseases, due to the neglect of the plantations. With the Great Green Wall, people are planting many trees in big ceremonies to stop desertification, but then nobody takes care of them, and they die. The planting could be exceeding the capacity of the soil to provide water and nutrients, thus condemning the plants to extinction, in the absence of permanent human intervention. Despite the setbacks, China has continued the world's largest afforestation project, with some positive results. Since the plan was launched in the late 1970s, the Gobi's green cover has grown from 5% to 13.5%. And several sections of the planet's fourth largest desert now show fertile soil, healthy vegetation and increased rainfall. Poor sands turned into fertile soils. China is taking other steps to halt desertification beyond the Great Green Wall. Another important breakthrough has occurred in the Mohos Desert, a former desert area in the Chinese province of Shanxi in Mongolia. More than 93% has been restored, with vegetation. Increased green cover could mean more rainfall, less soil erosion and degradation, and ultimately greater food security for the world. Apart from China, other countries are committing resources to research into forestry technologies. In 2005, Norwegian researcher Christian Morten Olesen developed a treatment that modifies the profile of sand particles to allow greater water retention. Olesen claims that his method can turn any poor sand that is unusable for agriculture into high-yielding soil. The Norwegian company is working with the Dubai Biosaline Agriculture Center on laboratory and field projects to apply the technology in the desert of the United Arab Emirates. Some desert lands, converted into fertile spaces of lush green, are confirming the potential of this technology. Different arid regions of the world, such as the kingdoms of the Arabian Peninsula, Libya and parts of India, widely use the center pivot irrigation technology, developed in the 1940s by the American farmer Francis Back. This system of irrigation in circles, with sprinklers, allows an efficient use of the liquid, which is of utmost importance in regions with very little fresh water, such as deserts. This method, which minimizes losses due to seepage and evaporation, combined with the drip irrigation system, allows planters in arid regions to take advantage of every drop of water. Another country that is making efforts to gain green areas in the desert is Egypt, more than 90% of whose surface is desert, although above and below the Sahara, is the main source of wealth of the ancient kingdom of the pharaohs, in the form of a heritage of antiquities that seems inexhaustible. The government is also developing projects to contain desertification and to convert sandy areas into arable land. Egypt and more than 50 other nations, especially African and Asian, obtain a good part of their wheat and other cereals from Russia and Ukraine. And the current war in Europe has made them realize how vulnerable they are in their food supply. The Egyptian government has also been involved in afforestation projects with nanoclays, and by the more classical method of enriching the soil with compost. It planted 2 million square meters of trees in the desert, using treated wastewater. It doesn't sound like much, but the use of water that was not reused before puts the project in another perspective. More green walls. In 2007, 11 African countries have joined forces to build the continent's Great Green Wall. This corridor, for 2030, aims to cross Africa from west to east, between the southern border of the Sahara and the Sahel. It would be a vegetable wall, with a decisive positive impact on food and fresh water supply in North Africa. More than a coordinated project underway, it is a political and economic aspiration. Ethiopia has planted 5.5 billion plants. Nigeria has planted 149 million, and Senegal has reclaimed 800,000 hectares of degraded land. These are impressive numbers, but they represent only 4% of the desired Great Green Wall of Africa. India is also converting deserts into productive land. Like China and Africa, India is also hooked on the Great Green Wall concept. And they have their own wall in the pipeline, a 1,400-kilometer corridor from Porbandar to Panipat. This project envisages the restoration of drylands through massive afforestation. Indian academic and environmentalist R. Yani has planted 2.5 million trees in arid regions of the state of Rajasthan. Yani, the son of farmers, began by salvaging dying trees on his university campus, then embarked on a door-to-door campaign. He then undertook a door-to-door campaign, asking city residents to plant and care for a tree, which he called the green member of the family. Yani, emphasized the importance of caring for the tree after planting, which increased the survival rate of the rooted plants, from 20 to 30% to over 90%, through fundraising campaigns. He purchased tanks and irrigation equipment. Currently, Yeni's trees can be seen in satellite photos, as a wall of greenery in front of the desert. The environmentalist obtained in 2021 the Land for Life Award, from the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. What could happen if all deserts become green? This would have a series of both positive and negative consequences. It is very difficult to estimate which could be the dominant vector. In the long term, for the human species and other living beings, food insecurity is one of the greatest problems of humankind. According to the United Nations, nearly 800 million people in the world survive with food shortages, a problem that has been aggravated in the last 3 years by the pandemic, and in the last 2022 by the war in Europe. If arable land increases, because we have been able to take it away from the deserts, and rainfall in the arid regions of the planet increases, there would be two positive effects: more food and more fresh water, for millions of thirsty human beings. However, it could be that the increased rainfall from the reversal of desertification will result in more floods, that will ruin agriculture. More green areas also mean new habitats for existing species, and perhaps for the recovery of some on the verge of extinction, but also the disappearance of the ecosystems to which desert creatures have become accustomed. Two trends of different magnitude would be faced: on the one hand, an increase of biodiversity in the new green spaces, and on the other hand, a decrease of desert life. Would this be favorable or unfavorable for humanity? These are difficult questions to answer, since deserts play a key role in the regulation of the planet's temperature, and their disappearance would bring about climatic changes of uncertain magnitude. In addition, desertification promotes the formation of minerals, widely used in industry. And we would have to look for them elsewhere. 2.1 billion people use deserts as habitats. If the deserts disappear, these people would have to adapt to a new way of life. It is difficult for a desert Bedouin to want to change his sandy beaches, and his camel for a paradise of greenery. Forests have long been pointed to as the natural tool for transforming carbon, and reducing global warming. However, to its advantages of carbon absorption through photosynthesis, we must oppose the factors of more rainfall, and greater absorption of sunlight from the forest mass. The greater rainfall due to the decrease of deserts, would be a relief for the 20% of the world's population, which lives with water shortage, but poses the problem of floods, and an unknown climate change. Desert afforestation is one of the most exciting challenges facing humanity, if only to reverse the negative balance of desertification, not to turn all deserts into orchards. The planet has lived for millennia with deserts, forests, grasslands, and mountains, and perhaps it is just a matter of restoring the balance, without trying to replace one world with another that we judge more pleasant, depending on our habits and the place where we live. In this context, the projects of the Great Green Walls of China, India, Africa, and any other that may come to fruition, can be positive for humanity. Did you like the video? Leave your comments below. Remember to like, subscribe and share this information, so that it reaches more people. Thanks for watching.